Well, the great discussions are continuing now with a look into the decentralized finance platform with Bernd Oostrum of Plenty DeFi, followed by a panel of industry leaders discussing the rise of DeFi and just what might be driving it.
What an introduction. Amazing. Thank you for having me. So, I'm going to have a small presentation about the DeFi ecosystem on Tezos, which is still relatively small to many of the other ecosystems out there. We have a small past. The present is very cool to be part of, but more hyped about the future that is coming soon. And who am I? My name is Bernd Oostrum. I'm co-founder of Tezos, of Tezos India as well, and of Plenty DeFi, one of the leading DeFi platforms on Tezos currently. And I'm basically married to Malvia, who's on the panel later on, and who's my co-founder in all these efforts. And we met each other actually during Draper University back in 2018. And there we decided to build on top of Tezos to pursue our blockchain efforts on the Tezos blockchain. And we did that because we saw problems with Ethereum, and we saw that Tezos had solutions for these problems in the form of on-chain governance, and it had a consensus algorithm that was based on proof of stake. And Tezos uses a specific proof of stake consensus algorithm called liquid proof of stake. And what that means is that your tokens are never locked, and they stay liquid, and you can always transfer them whenever you want. And back then, when Tezos started, it wasn't such a unique feature to have, but currently, compared to other proof of stake blockchains, it is quite unique to not have a lockup period of your tokens. And a great example of why Tezos is so unique and what is so cool about on-chain governance and what kind of effect it can have on the blockchain itself can be seen in these two graphs here. On one side, you see the contract calls growing exponentially each month on Tezos. And on the other side, you see the consumed gas of all these transactions over time. And you see it growing as well, similar as the contract calls. But at a certain moment, the consumed gas dropped immensely. And that was when a new upgrade was activated on the Tezos blockchain, completely on-chain, without any hard forks. And that's completely different than other blockchains do it currently. For Ethereum, there needs to be a hard fork to do an upgrade. For Bitcoin, there needs to be a hard fork to do a proper upgrade. And a hard fork is in itself not a big problem, but the problem is that when you do a hard fork, you also risk forking the entire community. And we've seen it happening with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and we've seen it happening on Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And that's something that we won't see happening on Tezos. So about the past on Tezos, the DeFi past on Tezos. In 2020, we saw the DeFi summer on Ethereum, and unfortunately, no DeFi summer on Tezos. At that time, there was still a lack of developers, a lack of developer tools. But with Tezos, we saw that DeFi could really help evolve Tezos into a mature blockchain. So we pivoted from insurance to DeFi with the help of an investment from Draper Associates. And with that investment round, we focused around building an algorithmic stablecoin, actually. And we were pretty close to launching this algorithmic stablecoin, and then suddenly Draper Goren Holm started talking to us, and we were discussing how can we really bootstrap this DeFi ecosystem and kickstart it. And that's how Plenty was born. Together, we came up with the idea of attracting liquidity from other blockchains, but because we saw on Ethereum there was a lot of things happening. Binance Smart Chain, although we weren't that big of fans of the tech itself, we saw that there was activity and liquidity, and we tried to find ways on how can we attract users and liquidity from those blockchains to Tezos. And around that idea, we built the Plenty platform. First, only focused around staking and farming, but now Plenty is also an AMM, and more is coming. So we saw something pretty interesting happening while we were building Plenty and while Plenty was starting, and it was that the Tezos token itself is very different from Ethereum. So we saw that when users were participating in DeFi, a lot of Tez was used and locked up in smart contracts, and that gave a problem because Tez was also part of the governance process itself, and it was used in different ways than Ethereum was being used. So we saw that there was a lot of centralization happening with a lot of Tez, and also the question arose of who's going to use that Tez to validate transactions on the network, but also who gets to vote with that Tez for the future of the protocol. So we first had the problem of there's no liquidity on Tezos, and then a new problem arose of how are we going to tackle this problem of centralization of the network token itself. And luckily, the founder of Tezos already came up with a cool idea called CTES, and it's actually a synthetic version of Tez that is representing Tez that is being baked somewhere. So it's a way easier token to be used in DeFi on Tezos. And this specific solution is only it is only useful for Tezos and specifically built for Tezos, and that's pretty cool compared to the other stuff what we've done so far. We've looked at other blockchains and looked at it and thought, okay, what can we build on Tezos that is pretty similar to other blockchains and can solve certain issues? But CTES is actually purely focused around Tezos and solves a Tezos specific issue. And it's not per se a product that we have built, or we have built it, of course, but not a product that we own. It is a fully decentralized protocol and is there for the ecosystem itself. So we don't own it. It is deployed together with Bender Labs, another team in the Tezos ecosystem. And together we use it and we build the UI. But we encourage everyone in the ecosystem to also help build this product further. So this was a little bit about the past and about the present. As you've heard, not that much has happened on Tezos so far, but still the future is bright because there are a lot of teams joining now on Tezos, and we've seen as well in cool initiatives from, for example, Tezos India, that there are new projects coming to Tezos, and they see that Tezos is a platform where you can still get a foot in the door or make, how would you say that, become like a leader or a project leader in the entire ecosystem. We've seen multiple projects coming up with, who focus around lending, around stablecoin AMMs, and all that stuff. We've seen that on the other blockchains, of course, but to build that stuff on Tezos, you need to build it from scratch, and that's definitely one of the challenges before. But the tools are getting better. The libraries are getting better, the teams are getting bigger, more developers are joining. So yeah, the future is bright. And what we are planning with Plenty is we've built an AMM. Now we need a router, we need an API, we want to introduce limit orders, governance will be introduced. All these things that have been built on Ethereum before or on other blockchains as well, we still need to build those for Tezos. And it really feels like we're still a few years behind Ethereum, but we can also leapfrog certain things. Like we can use the research that has been done on Ethereum and implement that on Tezos, but still we need to build a lot of that stuff from scratch. And we can't do that alone. That's why we need more people in this ecosystem. And that's one of the reasons why we are organizing a big hackathon, a global hackathon together with Tezos India. And we really want the community to get more involved with building specific tools, building specific bots, for example, or widgets, or certain pieces of infrastructure that are already common goods in Ethereum or any other EVM compatible blockchain. We want people to build that on Tezos, because the teams that are currently building on Tezos are still limited, and there's still a lot of space for more teams to start building. So that's why we want to initiate this effort of pushing this ecosystem forward and trying to get more teams and developers involved in building DeFi on Tezos. Besides Plenty, the Treasure team is also building a mobile wallet for both iOS and Android. This wallet will have DeFi functionalities, but also it will also be focused around NFTs. And one other thing that I didn't mention is that we're currently, for Plenty, we are researching fractionalizing NFTs as well. Another interesting future product. But for that, we also want to involve the community more with the hackathon. So NFTs will be one of the verticals of that specific hackathon. In the future, we see Plenty as one of the DeFi pillars on Tezos, but we need more different teams building on top of Tezos. So that's why we do the hackathon. That's why we want to enable individuals, but also teams to build more innovative stuff. We do that with Treasure ourselves. We recently hired a few more developers and also increased our different verticals. So we are currently working on a few NFT things. We're working on DeFi. We're working on mobile. And for this, we need more people in the ecosystem, more people on DeFi, more people working on specific solutions for Tezos. And I really believe that with all these different projects, with all these different tools and different solutions out there, we can create something that has not been seen on other blockchains before. Because I've seen so far that a lot of people are trying to compare Tezos to other blockchains, to Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain, but you can't really compare it because Tezos is not EVM compatible. That's both a curse and a blessing. But because it's not EVM compatible, we can really build something from scratch, and by comparing it to other blockchains, we are not being completely, how would you say that? It's not completely fair to compare it to other blockchains out there as Ethereum and other EVM compatible blockchains because it's so different, and that's why we should treat it as something completely different. And I'm pretty hyped about the future. The past was not that much. The present is already pretty epic, but the future is going to be, I think, for DeFi on Tezos, if you are starting now as a developer, you can still get your foot in the door and start a project that becomes as big as, now I'm doing it myself, comparing it to Ethereum projects, as big as Uniswap or as big as Aave or any of those projects. So if you want to build on Tezos, send me a DM on Twitter, on Telegram, or join the Discord server and start participating in the hackathon. Or if you want to join the Treasury team, also send me a DM. Well, thank you for your time, and I would love to see you backstage or in any of the other group chats.